beginning about 3000 BC. 2,500 before the current era, they began navigating eastwards and southeastwards across the Pacific through the Melanesian Islands, Micronesian Islands, Melanesian Islands, and then Polynesia. And the diagram is surprising because it shows that New Zealand is below was inhabited around about 600 years ago. In the meantime, my island continent was bypassed, even though habitation had been there about 60,000 years. The next slide is the first time the word America was used. It's a 16th century slide, presently in the Library of Congress. It shows how people were trying to explain what was happening with that great age of exploration, worldwide exploration. The next slide shows, again, from the 18th century, work by a cartographer to try and explain what was happening in the Pacific. And you can see that this is the time in the next slide when there was so much colonization. I've only listed some of the superpowers there, but they were bringing with them a greater interest in trade, their terms, education systems, probably not drawing much on indigenous knowledge, as the Vice Chancellor said this morning. But they came along with Western approaches to the development and application of knowledge. And we saw some of that dramatically illustrated during World War II and later with superpowers during airborne testing in the Pacific. Not all, but three of the major powers. Where does it take us today? We've had an indigenous people growing, creating a continent of islands alongside the island continent that they sent somehow to exist. They've been developing their own education and culture. The question for us is, how might that affect business education if it doesn't already? Remember, some of these observations are coming out of ignorance on my part. The photograph in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide is of a talking chief, a Samoan talking chief. I was doing some Aussie work in Samoa in the 1990s, and I was very much taken by this woodcarving. It made me think about what does this man do and say to his communities. He had a period of a place of authority. We had people swapped over his shoulder. I've tried this in my own family. The person in these conditions is meant to be listened to, and the orator can speak for as long as he likes. If it doesn't work in our family, I held a stick, put an imaginary spot over my shoulder, and tried to talk to the family. They don't let me hold the floor for. But it does raise a question for me about leadership, the way the families and Indigenous culture operate, how they get access to Indigenous education when many of them live in remote parts, hilly parts, difficult terrain, and what contribution their culture makes to learning about business. And as the VC said this morning, and as Gomez said, there are many issues around resources. So that the photograph of the talking chief doesn't quite show you his height, but it's about that big. The next slide takes us into trying to understand some aspects of the economy of the continent of islands. It's taken from the World Bank rating, and you'll see that Australia and New Zealand, ranked 22 and 33 respectively, have high per capita incomes up to 30 times that of the Solomon Islands and Vanuatu. So there's an enormous difference if we're taking gross national income per capita as the measure to guide us. The King of Bhutan would probably say we should be concerned about gross national happiness, not gross national income. So most of the Fiji is close to the top 100, and then the others tend to drop away. The next slide falls on the UN's Human Development Index. This is an index taking into account long life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living. The world rank again has Australia and New Zealand at the top, Tonga and Fiji within the first 100, and then it drops away to Papua New Guinea at 0.558 on the index. Just a bit over half of Australians. And yet PNG, like some of the other Pacific Islands, is enormously rich in resources. But it's not quite yet making it up of its people. The next slide is the E-Government Development Index. This again is a UN index. It tries to indicate the extent to which access, internet access, is available. It's an E-Government index. In Oceania, taking only Australia and New Zealand, you see there 9.419 on average in 2022. The world is 6.1, so Australia and New Zealand are above the world average. And then within Oceania, there are some other differences. And again, we see consistently around about half the world no knowledge. That has an implication, as you were saying this morning, for the capacity to offer courses and programs if the E-Government index is so low. It might, on the other hand, mean you won't have problems with artificial intelligence. The next slide is a long quote, and I'm sorry I can't do it any better. But the point it makes is that a handful of islands, Palau, Marshall Islands, Tonga, Niue, and the Cook Islands, have completed, most people over 25 have completed post-secondary education. But apart from Palau, fewer have gone on to post-secondary education, technical and vocational education, and tertiary education. And this work done by the Pacific Islands Forum also indicates there's generally a disparity in gender in both upper and post-secondary education in most countries in the region. So from a Western perspective, it looks as if there's work to do. And I'd say from the observations we had this morning from our hosts, they're underway. I'm not sure if the next slide is going to turn out okay.
No.
No, it's okay. So we go on to the one, business education and resources. Building on the right-hand side is my old Curtin Business School. Again, that's some of you would be familiar with having visited that university, had hosted at university. So there are a number of sources of business education. It's not only a business school in a university. There are private providers, there are vocational training, there are professional organizations like accounting organizations, human resource organizations, marketing organizations, all doing their best to try and provide a business-related education. And more recently, there's a lot of cross-border education done by remote learning, done using the net, by using Zoom and other sources. So we come now to business schools in Oceania. On the next slide, please. Where we are. Yes, there we are. These numbers, I'm sorry I can't swear to their accuracy. Some of this was done under deadline pressure. Australia and New Zealand have most, as you expect. Fiji and USB at several campuses. Samoa 1 and PNG 2. I've excluded Hawaii from this because it's got a lot of university. So there's, on the face of it, overall, there seems to be some availability. But the big schools in Australia and New Zealand, that I was asked to talk about them, particularly the Australian schools, have a large number of international students, and about half of them, of those added 55,000 this year, are studying business degrees. Graduate schools at all those universities, the universities enjoy international standing, often being ranked by ECWS, AMBA, AACSB, and some of the other ranking agencies. So they enjoy the capacity to attract international students. Many of them have offshore campuses. My old university, which is sort of more Indo than the Pacific, has got campuses in Bahrain, Singapore, Mauritius. RMIT in Melbourne has a campus in Vietnam. I think that some of those of you from India could help me here. I think that Monash is about to strike a deal with one of the Indian institutes. Is Monash in your part of the world yet? Yes. So those offshore campuses are providing international collaboration and international links. Taking up one thing around collaboration, the Australian Business Council, which I was the founding secretary, was set up around about 2001, and it aims to be an advocate for issues around business schools and business school teaching. I don't know whether it has any connection these days with the university, but they do produce a list of journals that a suitable ranking, A plus, downwards. So if you're interested in what the business needs council is doing, there's a teaching and learning committee, there's a search committee, there's the preparation of this annual index, which might help you understand just where some of the journeys you're interested in rank. Maybe another step is to, for the Pacific Islands Forum, to talk to the ABBC and say, what can we do together? The Australian government, muscling up to China and America, is doing its best to improve relations with the Pacific. So who knows what might happen with that. If you need to get into an Australian business school, two ways, international and domestic, testing in both cases. And I just thought some attention perhaps to pathways colleges. These are colleges like Navitas, not only Navitas, but where Pathways College provides a contractual arrangement with the university. The students come into Pathways College and at the completion of an appropriate program are eligible to enter the university that the Pathways College is the host from. So the private providers in Australia are regulated by government. The registration system with the quality control of courses and agents. A couple of examples there are Kaplan Business School and Navitas, so I'll mention those quickly. But what's more outstanding is overall, there's a substantial number of range of business-related courses in my company. They include agriculture and business, hospitality and business, tourism, economics, accounting, human resource management. So the business schools, in at least that dimension, do face the competition from other providers, in terms of fees, cost, and maybe the skills relevance of their work. This shows you the range of bachelor's fees for international students and domestic students. International students generally pay more than the domestic students. Some have objected that this is unfair, but others point out that the international students will generally go away from Australia when they've completed their study. So they won't be contributing to revenue, tax revenue, when they're working in Australia. That might change because there's been some change to visa arrangements. So, of the countries in the Pacific, Australia and New Zealand stand out because of their major exporting and trading nations. They've got sound financial systems, highly developed service sectors, strong, expensive information systems, which, as we saw, Oceania on that e-government index, general and banks. And they've got extensive domestic participation in education, something still to be sought in some nations. So where are we in the Pacific now? This is, I hope, a NASA shot. Yes, thanks. I'm sure I mentioned that earlier. It's taken in May this year. It's one of NASA's extraordinary bits of research. It shows sea level rises in the red band. And the darker the band, the higher the level. And the level rises, as you surely know, because the water's getting warmer and expanding. At the same time, there are atmospheric changes. So we mentioned economic conditions, e-government, mentioned some economic uncertainty, and we briefly mentioned superpower rivalry, and there is climate change. So the next slide lists, perhaps from a Western's perspective, of impacts for business schools now. Climate change, COVID and war pandemic, disaster management, we mentioned cyclone earlier, economic uncertainty, artificial intelligence, and superpower rivalry. Now, just to imagine you were beginning to design a bachelor's program to cope with those impacts. What would you do? Well, first of all, you might consider what else is happening in the continent of islands. And the Pacific Islands Forum has established a 2020 strategy for the blue Pacific continent. That's why I'm wearing blue, supporter of the blue Pacific continent. Then, what might the business schools contribute? Emmeline is about to open the chat, openai.com link, which you'll see on the screen, and then we're going to see whether openai.com can produce any sort of curriculum that might match the issues I raised. We'll only take about 4 questions, we won't go through them all, and you'll see as they roll up on the screen, if you've not used Chat GPT before, this might help you. Talking to the gods, like gods. So our first question was, please design a 3-year bachelor's degree for e-commerce or commerce and management. Our second question was asking ChatGPT to add climate change.
Mathilde on indigenous culture in the Pacific.
So we're asking a question about a bachelor's degree, and asking a question about adding material relevant to indigenous culture, and then a question asking to add stuff on climate change. Finally, a question on superpower rivalry. How will all these elements be incorporated in a bachelor's business degree? This experiment will allow you to test how good or how bad ChatGPT is in dealing with those particular sets of questions, whether it is any good and whether there are gaps. We've resisted the temptation to say, please provide me with a bibliography, please provide me with an assessment mechanism, etc. It does provide an experiment that's there for you to try. Thank you very much. I'm going to Claudia, and later we'll get a chance for some chat. Thank you. Claudia is going to introduce himself, as the other members are. I'm reminded here of a story about a prominent woman author who was asked in 6 words to write a short story. She wrote, longing for him. Got him. So, be brief. That's what we're aiming. As you
Good afternoon, Bula, everybody. This was a requirement. Happy to be here. Happy to be in Fiji for the first time, and happy to be in a universal convention for the first time. So I heard a lot about it, but couldn't do it in the previous years. But it was fantastic to, I had a lot of business trips lately. I was out a month in September in the US, and then I came back to Latvia for a week. And then I went down to Africa, to Zambia and Zimbabwe for a week, and then came back to Latvia for 1 week. And then I went to China. I was in Shanghai, hosted by the Fudan University and the Shanghai Forum for 1 week. And then it was so nice to arrive in a bedroom in the Hilton. So at the end on Saturday, and with such warm welcome from the 50 people. And I was asked to tell a little bit the story. I am the new dean of the Riga Business School. This is a business school was established with the USA funding and is well known as, I can say that because I didn't do it. So my predecessors do it. It's one of the most successful US aid projects in Eastern Europe. And it's part of a big university, Riga Technical University, that is 162 years old. And I worked for this school for 11 years, and I just became the dean 100 days ago. And I was asked to talk about one of the great projects we have now with MIT, but that has created a lot of spillover around our business school, and also what we think about ourselves. And it has a lot to do with what Mike was saying about the role of business schools now. And we are asking ourselves, how do we steal a business school? Because our life, like when in 2019 was the easy life of a business school institution. So we were teaching undergraduate programs, we were teaching MBA programs, we were doing executive education. And then one day we get a call from the government and you say, what do you do for us? What do you do for Latvia? Latvia is an extremely successful country, and I can say because I am not Latvia, I lived there for some years, but and I could see the enormous growth of Latvia since 2004, once it joined the European Union and the NATO, and became a strong member of the Western community. And it has been growing. Today is one of the 40th countries in the world. And what Latvia was saying, okay, now we want more. We want the next step. And who should help us? Well, the business school. I mean, this is why you are here, right? So that's what you need to do. And then what we started to do is to look for the new transformation of the country, looking at what happens in other economies, and how transformations can happen. Because what Latvia is facing now is the challenge to become a wealthy country, what means we need to focus only on services and products with high value added, what means we need to compete with talent. And we compete for talent with who? We compete for talent with London and with Frankfurt, with Paris, with Madrid. So we are competing with the big guys. And so what that means, hey, we need to create an economy that is looking and becomes very competitive. And that means we need to transform the economy. So I think it was part of a universal convention when one of my colleagues met someone, I don't know who, that was at that moment working for MIT or working with MIT, I don't know. But that's how the contract was created. And in a visit that I did to Harvard, I went to MIT, and I met the staff of the J-WEL Center. The J-WEL Center is a center in MIT that what they aim to do is to help universities and university system around the world to be transformed. So we, after a couple of years of negotiation, we established a cooperation. And since then, what we have been doing is training over 100 leaders of Latvia, government leaders, university leaders, and company leaders together to start creating innovation projects where the government, universities, and corporations are together. So if someone wants more details about that, I can share that afterwards. But basically, the concept is we need the 3 key stakeholders for innovation to work together. So we go to Boston, we spend a week there, we do training before we go to Boston, we do training after we go to Boston, we select a specific radical innovation projects and we incubate them together with our colleagues from MIT. Now, the project was so successful, it brought a lot of inspiration into the country that the government said, could you do more for us? Now, you have to, and I was very glad today that the first panel that about artificial intelligence, because it's not business as usual. It's going to transform everything. Now, if you look at every single transformation that happens in economies, look at just our recent memory, the last 20 years, they are always very difficult and they always touch everything. Artificial intelligence is going to do that. And the question is, what is the role of business schools? I've been working in business schools since 1999. My first business school is in Buenos Aires. I am Argentinian, Italian, Spanish. So, and that was my first business school. And I saw how reactive we've been always when transformation happened. I remember the Argentinian debt crisis. I remember the European enlargement. I've been part of it. I remember the financial crisis in 2008, the COVID, and the war in Ukraine, etc. When you have this type of transformational events, what is the role of business school? In my experience, being working in business school, many times we just reacted. So we saw what was happening, and then we were focused on adapting our programs to the new reality. But is that what the society expects from us? I think the society expects much more from us because the capacity of business school is unique. Number one, we are part of universities generally. What gives us access to a pool of talent that many times neither the government nor the companies has available. So business schools and universities can be great on providing this type of support. Second, as educational institutions, many times we are neutral platforms. So we don't have political affiliations, we don't have certain private, distinct private interests, what make our analysis many times more objective. So we have a lot of contact between education and industry, in that connection with government that many times they do not have. For university, and especially business schools, have an access to global talent at a low cost that generally not other player in the system has. For example, here, how much talent we have in this room right now. I just come from China, where we have a brainstorming session with a scholar from 20 countries. So how much access to talent you have there? That is for any normal company, for any normal government, is difficult. So in 2019, the government has to be involved in the Latvian transformation. In my experience, business schools generally are not that active or proactive in this type of transformations. The level of transformations that many times societies undergo, either because something happened like COVID, or because there is a new technology like artificial intelligence, they are so invasive, so radical, that they require an ecosystem-driven approach to the solution. So there is no company, government, or industry that can solve something like artificial intelligence. It requires a system, a new ecosystem-based approach. And fourth, a business school is always a key partner for that. So I am running out of time, and thank you for someone to tell me. But if someone wants more details about what we are doing with MIT and also with other partners, so welcome for afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So hello everybody, and first I would like to say how happy I am to be here in this region of the world where so much happens. And I also want to thank the EduNUversal team, very welcoming team, very professional, and I love, being part of their events because it's always great events with a lot of communication, very open-minded people, and we meet great people. So thank you for inviting me and letting me know, and because I didn't have the information that you were supposed to meet here. And here is not very far from where I am because I am working at the University of New Caledonia, the little France that is in the South Pacific. So my name is Virginie. I used to be the Dean of Aix-Marseille University Business School, Aix-Marseille Institute of Administration and Business Administration of Aix-Marseille, a very big institute with 1,000 students, and a very big university with 72,000 students. And I decided to change my life and to go to from the largest French university to the smallest one, which is New Caledonia. So New Caledonia is 4,000 students. So I went from 72,000 students to 4,000 students, and I enjoy it. So let me explain you a little bit what are the challenges of this university and the business school we created, and why did we create this university here and in this part of the world. So the whole story is linked to the history of New Caledonia, which used to be a colony of France, and which is in the process of decolonization. And I say the process because the process began with the Accord with Matignon, so the agreements of Matignon 1988. And that it's still going on. So you can see that we need time to agree and to have new generation maybe with a newer view of how we can solve this problem of decolonization. And after the Accord with Matignon, there was the Accord de Nouméa, so the agreement of Nouméa, which began in 1998 and are supposed to finish in 2021 with 3 referendums for the population, saying, do you want to stay with France or do you want to be apart from France? And 3 times the population said, we want to keep the link with France and stay within France, except the 3rd referendum, which is very recent in 2021. All the Kanak people said, we don't go, we don't vote. And so, no Kanak, because they have a very strong team spirit and a tribal spirit. When the head of the tribe says, you don't go to vote, nobody goes. So, are the results valid or not? This is a political question. And in this situation, and we are still in this situation, so that's why they are going and negotiating a lot, because some of the population say, well, you have the opportunity to say what you want, we didn't take the opportunity to do that for you. And the other part of the population, no, we didn't want to go vote for 2 main reasons. The first one is the question is too harsh, yes or no, and maybe we would like to find a middle solution. And the second is that it was in the COVID pandemic, and they had a lot of people dying, and they grieved for 1 year. And they said we were in the grieving time, and so we don't vote when we grieve. So why do I explain this story? Because you can see that 2 populations with 2 different cultural mindsets, you know, have a lot of difficulties understanding each other. The one said, you have the opportunity, we'll give you your voice, you don't take it. Well, and the other one said, no, but this is not the right time for us to take this decision. So, and the university in all this has been created in 1987. It was the University of Pacific with University of New Caledonia and University of Tahiti in French Polynesia. And in 1999, the 2 universities separated. University of French Polynesia is part from University of New Caledonia. We only have the doctoral school, which is a merged for the 2. And the University of New Caledonia is very interesting how and why it was created. The main reason was what I could call the French spirit that wants, you know, to be disseminated all over the world, and what we call this soft power. France is not very good in hard power, but tries its best for soft power. And so the reason was, okay, this is part of France, we want to be there, and we want to educate the population, and we would like to participate to this. But what is very interesting is that the mission of the university, of course, we have the traditional mission of the university, create and disseminate knowledge, but we also have specific mission for New Caledonia, the specific mission of equilibrium, I'm not sure how to say that, but make it equal again between in New Caledonia, because there are 2 main populations that are very distinct and with very different levels of standards of living. So very quickly here that the money is not only in Numea, but all over the country, and that everybody can make money and have a good living. So this was the first assignment given to the university. Another one was to make sure that the Kanaki languages are still alive and that they live and that they thrive and that they don't die. And this is a very difficult challenge because there are 28 different languages. So the language department in the University of New Caledonia is huge because this is a big deal, you know, making sure that those 28 languages are still spoken and are still alive, and they make books for the kids, etc., or even application on the phone with these specific languages. And so we had this also second mission, that is Equilibrium and the teaching Kanak languages. And with this, okay, the university was created with classic departments, science and technology, humanity and languages, law and economics, Institute of Technology, School of Education, which is very important for the languages and for teaching French, the Doctoral School of Pacific, I said, and 2020, creation of the business school. So, Mike, you can change your slide and add one business school in the Oceania, which is EAE business school. So it's part of a network of business schools in France, 34 business schools, and we are the first one in South Pacific. The main, so we created a lot of events, and we will speak of PIURN, so I don't want to take too long of this time, but to conclude on the main challenges that this university and the business school, what are the main challenges we face? First main challenge is that we want to contribute to the health, the economic health, and the well-being of New Caledonian, but without interfering too much. And in many occasions, we can feel that two cultures do not understand each other. It's very interesting, me as a dean of the business school, it's very interesting to see how people do not understand how to speak. And maybe what I have observed from past and I've been in New Caledonia for 2 years now, the two main differences that I can really see is perception of time and perception of time. So everything takes a long time, and what we call les palabres, which means that you speak a lot. And you have to do all these palabres. If not, people don't listen to you. So perception of time and also perception of geography. People in New Caledonia think that New Caledonia is the center of the world. And you have to tell them, no, you know, there is a large space in Europe, and there is Asia, and there is Australia, etc. So, and because of this COVID, and probably this is linked also to the generation that arrives in our schools, it's the Z generation. And if you think about this generation, they were kids for September 9/11. So they began with a very striking and very frightening event, and the world shaking. And since then, they saw only bad events occurring in the world. And I think that this generation, what I see in New Caledonia, they want to protect themselves by staying in their close little environment. And one of the main challenges I have, me as the dean of the business school, is opening them to the world and letting them know, okay, the world is not that horrible and that different, and you will learn, and it's because it's very difficult for them to open, and even more difficult for them to open because of distance. So when they go away, they go very far away, and money, when they go away, it costs them a lot. So this is the challenge for this Z generation. And so, of course, I completely agree with the challenges you mentioned, climate change, indigenous cultures, etc. But in New Caledonia, we have these two additional challenges contributing to the health of New Caledonia without interfering too much into their culture and opening the student to the challenges of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank Universal for the invitation, and I'm so sorry I missed the keynote and the panel this morning because I was on a plane actually from New Caledonia to Fiji, and because the Pacific is very wide and connectivity is still an issue, there is only one direct flight a week. So it's Monday morning, so I didn't have a choice from Numea to Dundee, but I think the Fiji Airways is not going to increase their flight to Numea, which is a very good news, because it means that the French-speaking territory will be more embedded in their region. So why am I here today and why am I speaking? So my name is Mathilde, I'm the PIURN coordinator based at USP SOUCHON headquarters in a beautiful campus that you will all visit on Wednesday. So PIURN, what it is? PIURN is the Pacific Island Universities Regional Network. We just changed the name here. PIURN is a consortium of 15 Pacific Island countries and territories universities. So it is co-chaired by USP and by the University of New Caledonia. So it's a bilingual, or should I say multilingual network, because we tend to only see French and English as the main language in the region, but we have like hundreds and should I say even thousands if we count the one in Papua New Guinea. So this network was officially established in 2013, and it came from this idea of you have in one side of the Pacific the French-speaking researchers doing research, and you had on the other side the English-speaking researchers doing research. But the two worlds weren't communicating and they were not working together. So that's why they decided to come together in 2013 and to start collaborating. That's why we do have the two French universities networks, so University of New Caledonia and University of French Polynesia. We have 6 universities in Papua New Guinea, the 3 universities based in Fiji, National University of Vanuatu, National University of Samoa, Solomon Island National University, and a new addition recently, a small university in Tonga, Christ University in Pacific. So how do this network work? So basically, USP and University of New Caledonia, and I will say UNC, bear with me with the acronyms. I'm sorry, we do love acronyms. We launch annual PIURN call for proposal, and to be eligible for this call for proposal, if you are a researcher from USP or from the University of New Caledonia, you have to partner with at least one of the PIURN member university. So this way, it can foster collaboration in the Pacific. And so far, we had more than 20 collaborative PIURN project going on. And from this small research PIURN project, we did manage to attract a lot of external grants, a lot of European Union grants, Pacific grants. So it really helped foster collaboration, foster research in the region. And you may ask what the research should be about. So as long as is aligned with the United Nations SDGs, so Sustainable Development Goals, basically good to go. So this is one thing PIURN do. The other things network does is organize a conference every 2 years. So University of New Caledonia hosted the first one in 2014. And the last one was actually hosted by USP Cook Island campus, with more than 250 participants coming from all over the Pacific. And when I say all over the Pacific, I also include Australia and New Zealand. We had Henry Puna, the Secretary General for Pacific Island Forum, who was there. So it was a big event. But we had also scholarship for 30 students from PIURN member university. So it allowed them to go to present their master thesis or their PhD thesis in front of their fellow researchers from all over the region. It is so, but this conference, the most important thing about this conference is that it allows researchers from the region to connect. Because, as I mentioned earlier, connectivity in the Pacific is one of the issues, as you may have seen, because you travel all far. We live in the city of Ireland, and I'm quoting Epeli Alpha, which is one of her best Pacific scholars. And so the city of Islands, that was, we need to work together, because the city of Ireland is faced with common challenges. So you mentioned climate change, sea level rise, economic instability. So the Pacific Islands, but countries, but also territories, they need to work together across these common challenges. And that is what PIURN is all about. And sure, we start with university, but as Virginie mentioned, university, the institutions that disseminate the knowledge, and the stronger university are, but how you become stronger by working together. And that is what PIURN is about. So thank you very much.
No more questions.
Yes, we've had quite a feast after lunch from our panelists. I had a very brief conversation with Claudia before we began, and do not miss the chance to have a conversation with her afterwards. Do not miss the chance. So, who's first up? I didn't expect a group that could be so demonstrated just after lunch would go to water. This is an intellectual outfit, isn't it, Jerry Jo? I can't hear any questions. Oh.
You were very clear. You were very clear.
But that's a compliment. Thank you, George. That's a compliment to the panel members and to you as well. And Belinda, thank you very much for stretching out my team. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have one question, sorry. I would like to know, because maybe it would be useful for all the attendees to know about that. It's for Mathilde. Is in the mission, or could become one of the missions of the PIURN to help also the network universities to collaborate with others outside the network, and which kind of aspects could it be possible?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the project I was mentioning, it's not only between PIURN members. Of course, external partners are always welcome, especially in the region. We do rely a lot on Australian and New Zealand universities. I mean, let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, it will be totally something that the network could think about. I mean, because University of New Caledonia is a one of the co-chair of PIURN. We do have strong links with European university. We do work together, for example, in one of a big project that it's all about exchange of researchers. So we have Pacific Island universities in the project, but Australian universities, but also one German university and one French university. So this is totally something that we can work around. And you were talking about theme. I mean, as long as the theme is of interest for the PIURN University, I don't see why this cannot be done.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just to add a few words. Of course, we welcome any university from the world, but the issue is to be at least 2 members of the PIURN. You will find some leaflets, we will leave them so you will have more information. But just to let you know, the research projects are very diverse. One of the biggest ones is Salad, which is dealing on lifestyle, food, and because one of the big issues here in this region is obesity. So it's on how to teach younger to eat correctly, not to drink too much Coca-Cola. For instance, last year I worked with Mathilde on the projects. We had several. I submitted one on tourism, sustainable tourism. So usually in these, the themes that are received as good themes and that are sponsored by the PIURN are the themes that take into account climate change, sustainability, responsibility, etc. But the themes are very, it could be very like something very scientific, something more marketing, something more HR or dealing with languages. So we have very diverse themes. So make sure that you discuss with Mathilde to have some ideas.
Well, I think that wraps up the session. I haven't taken too much of your time, Claudia. Thank you very much for coming.